Hello, and welcome to our inaugural episode of Elevated Perspectives podcast. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Justin.
And you may recognize us from Instagram. Hello, if you follow us over at o.family.adventures. But we have started a podcast.
We started a podcast?
Yeah, we started a podcast. And why, babe, did we start a podcast?
Because everyone's doing it. Yeah, we started a podcast primarily because we've gotten so many questions, so many comments on our content on Instagram, and we really just wanted one place to be able to provide a lot of information, answer those questions, and just talk about what our life is like living abroad as a family.
Yeah, so we'll have two kinds of episodes. Sometimes Justin and I will be able to sit down to hash through our experience of being digital nomads with kids, traveling the world, going on scouting trips, this sort of thing. And then in the other section, we'll be talking to some special guests that we're super excited to share with y'all. The guest episodes are mainly because we have one experience of traveling the world and being expats or digital nomads or whatever, but a lot of the questions and interests that a lot of y'all have, we just don't have that experience.
Right. And so, we will drop these episodes on like a weekly basis. So sometimes it'll be us, and then sometimes it'll just be us talking to our guest, right? Yeah. So picking their brain. But yeah, we are super excited for this episode. I want to just touch on really like what we've been up to the past year.
It's been a year.
It's been a crazy year. This has been the craziest year of my life.
Yeah, this has been nuts.
Easily.
We were just talking about sometimes waking up and like being disoriented, and it's like, where even am I? Like, literally, like what city, what country am I in? Like, it's been a whirlwind, and that's not intentional. Yeah. We didn't mean for the year to wind up the way that it did.
It's been an unexpected year. So, it's just to recap, like we started off the year in Guadalajara, Mexico. Mm-hmm. That was our home base. We had an apartment, a lease, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And we went to go scout Colombia. Well, we went to Spain, but like that wasn't really
we were in Spain like the end of the year. Yeah. We got back right before the new year. We were in Guadalajara. Yeah. And then we had to like touch base back in the U.S. trying to figure out where to go.
Mm-hmm. And we decided on Colombia, though.
Yeah, we thought Colombia was going to be it. We really did.
We thought it would be our next home for like the year. And I think we hadn't been to Colombia before. So like everything we knew about it was from information from online, expat groups, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And we got to Colombia, we went to Medellin, and then we went to Bogota.
We did.
And it just wasn't going to work for us.
Yeah.
It just wasn't our speed. So that led us down like a rabbit hole of getting to Brazil. We got to see Spain again, and back to Mexico.
There was chaos because even when we were in Colombia, and I think initially we were meant to be in Medellin for like a couple of like months. We thought that was going to be home. So we got there, we were looking at schools, we were looking at apartments, we were really trying to integrate. And we were just like, this isn't it. So then we were like, should we go to Barranquilla? Should we go to Ecuador? Like, are we going to go to like Cartagena? Are we going to go to Bogota? Like, we had a lot of sort of like last minute, like, well, let's check here or scout there or maybe this or maybe that.
Yeah. What didn't work for you about Medellin, Colombia?
With Medellin, as they say, Medellin, it's not walkable, and all the schools are far from like the areas that we wanted to live in. And so I think that's like some of the biggest things are like walkability, or at least having like good public transit. Like, we know we don't want to drive, we don't want to have to rent a car. We rented a car while we were in Guadalajara because we had to, and it just wasn't what we wanted. So for anyone that doesn't know, Medellin is hilly. Like, it is hilly, which means you get beautiful views, but like...
It has its flat parts. And that's what people will say is like to combat that. They'll be like, get out of Poblado, like Poblado and Envigado are hilly, but like if you go to other spots. And we checked out those other spots. And like it's still...
Because everything has to align. Like, it has to be the right accommodations. It has to be near school. It has to be like walkable or have good public transit. Like, we have to like the vibe of the neighborhood, like the price to like rent has to line up. Like, everything has to line up. And I think that the more we scout and the more we go places, it becomes a situation of like prioritizing like these boxes. We haven't found the place that literally just has everything yet. Or have we? Because we got to Rio. Not to skip ahead.
And I really want to slow down to even answer like what is a scouting trip for people who don't know.
What is a scouting trip? What is the scouting trip?
So we are looking for our next home base, right? Or anytime you're thinking about moving abroad, you take a scouting trip to go see what it's like to live there, whether it's for 2 weeks, a month, whatever, works for you. You take a scouting trip, you scout it out.
And when you say scouting trip, what activities are you then prioritizing? Like what separates a scouting trip from like a vacation or just like traveling somewhere?
So I guess it starts ahead of time. Like when I want to scout it out, I want to look for neighborhoods, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe I will get on the internet and find some of the top neighborhoods that meet my criteria, based on my lifestyle. So if I have kids, I'm looking for family-friendly neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And then I want to look at like prices of accommodations, like find like a good website like Zillow, but for that country or that city, and find, those accommodations in your budget. So that way, when you go down there to visit, you can actually like just go up to that accommodation. You can go find the address, go see what the neighborhood is like, and say, can I actually live here without actually having to go tour the apartment itself.
Yeah, because that's a big thing. Because when you first start for a scouting trip anyway, the accommodations that are available, 9 times out of 10 aren't going to be the exact same ones that are available by the time you actually get there. But making that kind of like the central point through which you explore the neighborhood.
Right. And I would say outside of neighborhoods and accommodations, we have kids. So schools, what are the schools like? Mm-hmm. If you're not doing schooling, we've had nannies before. So what is the nanny agencies? What does that look like? And then on top of that, what else would I put? What else would you put in a scouting trip?
Yeah, I guess for me, the crux of what separates out like a scouting trip from just like visiting somewhere, vacationing, is like the intentionality that you bring to the trip. So it's easy to be traveling on vacation. You're just like bopping around, going out to eat and like enjoying your surroundings. But when you're scouting, I think it's a thing. We talk to each other all the time. We're like, oh, I see a lot of strollers here, a lot of families, or like this area has like a lot of like good parks. Yeah. Like it's about making those observations, making those notes, like getting good footage and kind of like figuring out, is this somewhere I can be? And then like you said, like centering certain like excursions, right, around the infrastructure of the city. Right. So even going to the schools is something we do. We'll walk to a school that we think might work for the kids, or we'll Uber, drive, whatever. We'll wind up at the school, and then we'll say, okay, let's plan our day in this general pocket. Let's walk around, let's explore, let's get lunch, let's see like what the area is like. Right.
And what we've done, we've tried to do both before. We tried to like have fun, shoot content, and scout at the same time. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of what made this year so hectic and crazy, because we didn't have that discernment. We didn't like separate it out. I think as content creators, we want to capture the content, but we also have to live our life. Yeah. And we also want to like have a good time in between there. So that's one thing that I feel like I've taken away from some of our trips is like, hey, like let's decide what kind of trip this is going to be.
Yeah. Or even like setting container and like breaking it out into pockets.
Yeah. If you're going to be there for like a month.
We have a day where we're like, this is like content day. Let's like show the people what the city is like or whatever. And then you have some days where it's like, we're going to put like our phones away and we're really just going to tune in on like the kids and the family and like, go to a park or like the oceanarium or something like that. And then sometimes it's like, okay, this is about business. Put on your walking shoes. We're going to go to this neighborhood and we're going to figure out if we can live there or not. Because it was hectic in the beginning. We were just like, we're just in Medellin and we're just like bopping around doing like all the things. But I think that was pretty easy to rule out just because like we saw like one park while we were there and we couldn't walk anywhere. And so that's just like I think we left early to head to Bogota.
We did. We still had like a week left in our trip. I think we were in Medellin supposed to be for 6 weeks. We cut it down to 4 weeks because once we realized it was not walkable and we didn't see like the parks and the kids outside. Like
they're very much put away.
The kids are put away,
A lot of the apartment buildings too are like enclosed, which to be fair for like historical and like socio like political reasons, like around safety, a lot of Colombia is just like they like to enclose like the housing, right, to make sure that no one is like getting in that shouldn't be in there, and there's like a lot of security at the apartments and stuff, but like that kind of makes it feel isolative, or at least it can.
It did for me. And then Bogota was cool.
I loved Bogota.
You loved it?
Yes. The seasonal depression would have eventually like knocked me off of that.
Yeah.
But I really did. I'm a fall person. And so you have Medellin, right? You have your city of eternal spring, and then you have Bogota, which is like your city of eternal fall.
Yeah.
And I'm such a fall person.
Yeah. The weather is nice, but the sun doesn't come out.
Yeah. I think the first 2 days we were there, the sun did come out, and I was like, Bogota.
It could rain at any time. But other than that, I think it was a cool city. Like, I think it was way more walkable.
Yeah.
Way flatter than Medellin. And then
but they don't have a train.
They don't have a train.
And the man we met at the park.
The shame of Bogota.
It was like the shame of Bogota is that we don't have a train system. Yeah. I was like, oh.
Yeah, because that means you are relying on taxis if you want to leave like the immediate neighborhood.
Yeah. They have buses? I feel like we saw the bus system looked good.
It did. So they did have a solid bus system. But I will say it wasn't the prettiest city.
Yeah.
Like, as far as like their downtown, like you don't see like big skyscrapers and like, you know, nice skylines. It's kind of an ugly.
There were some mountain views.
But
I don't think it's ugly. I just think it's because it's gray. You layer gray on top of any city and it's just not going to bang the city. Like even like Chicago, which has like arguably some of the most beautiful architecture. Yeah. Like when it's just gray,
I mean, it doesn't still see the landscape, but the mountains are pretty.
Yeah, the mountains are nice. Bogota has just a gorgeous, or Colombia in general just has great like backdrops and hills and like foliage. It's a beautiful country.
Yeah, like if you are okay with being car dependent, Colombia is dope. Like Colombia is great. The Spanish is like easy to learn. The food to me was great.
The food was fantastic.
The people were welcoming. Warm.
We were eating a lot and we were like losing weight.
Yeah, like we were eating super healthy. Their diet is I think really healthy.
I loved Colombia. Definitely go back. I do want to see other places. I want to see Cartagena. I want to get to Barranquilla. I'd like to see like Cali.
Yeah,
I do want to get back to Colombia, but I think right now it's just like is mainly the walkability. Because in Bogota as well, a lot of the schools were like outside of like where we'd want to live. And we say schools, not like all of the schools, but like the international schools, like the bilingual schools, like the schools that we would need to like send kids to.
Why did they put them so far out?
I don't know, but I'm sure there's a reason.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a reason. Because also when you think about like the city center, those are typically like the more dangerous and like densely populated areas, like of any city.
Right.
So you would want to put the schools, especially like the good schools or the upper crust schools, like a little further away from that, I guess.
So yeah, that was our timeline from January to March, April-ish.
Yeah.
And then in April we got to go
in March.
Our favorite city.
Yeah.
So after we left Colombia, we were like, where could we go? We were in South America already, so we're like, let's just continue traveling until we find the spot that we love.
And there's so much to see. But I think the thing about South America that bums me out is that because it's so big, you think it's easy to pop from like country to country to country to country. It's still expensive. It's still a long flight. It's a huge landmass.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to go see Lima, Peru. I want to get to like Machu Picchu. I want to check out Ecuador.
You had a lot of big aspirations.
Like Santiago de Chile. I want to check out Buenos Aires. Like what even is in Bolivia? Like where's Paraguay? Where's Uruguay? Like I had all these like notions. And then this one grounded me a little bit. Thank you.
As I do.
And so we're together.
As I do.
But yeah, we went to Brazil.
To Brazil. My favorite city.
So tell me your first impressions of Rio.
So getting off the plane and that drive from the airport to the like tourist area, like Copacabana, Ipanema, like Zona Azul, what they call it, South Zone, was rough. Like I thought we made a mistake. I remember some guy in the airport actually was like, is this your first time in Brazil? And he saw like me, you, and the kids. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, good luck. I was like, what? Like a gringo.
Yeah. And I have a lot to say about Brazil.
But like, it was just there was a lot of favelas on the way from the airport to the South Zone. Like I thought my impression of Rio de Janeiro was like, it's this big tourist city, like it's booming. I didn't realize how much disparity there was in Rio and in Brazil in general. So when I'm seeing the favelas like multiple, like all over the place on the way to the airport,
to paint
I'm like,
the picture too, like Rio has a lot of hills.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the favelas are like built into the hills and on top of the hills. So when you're driving and all of these hills are around you, like all the way up the hills, you just see favelas, which it's not like one of those things where like we like didn't think that like poverty was there. Like we knew about the favelas or we did our research like on Rio, whatever. But I think it's that thing where like knowing something and then seeing it, like the sheer like mass was a lot. Because even you go to cities like Atlanta, like I've talked about like Cincinnati, like there are plenty of places where like there are hoods and there's but like there are plenty of places that have hoods or slums or like, you know, underserved areas or whatever. But like typically it's a little flatter. Right? So you drive on a street by street basis.
Well, and in America, they tuck it away.
Then they tuck it away.
Yeah, they're going to put the hood like out there. But in Rio, the thing that shocked me was like, okay, the hood is like very close to the touristy areas.
Yeah. But even seeing it, like you can't see exactly how many trap houses are in Atlanta because it's flat. Right? But like if you put all of those going up a hill, like you would have to see the sheer number of trap. And so I think that's the thing that struck me too. But also like you take 2 turns and like you had it up a hill and like boom, you're in the favelas.
So that was my first impression, was like, ooh, we made a mistake. But then we get to the South Zone, we get to like where we're staying. We stayed in Leblon and we stayed for like a month, right? A little over a month.
Yeah, we were there like 6 weeks.
But we loved it. Once we got to like our side of town, we were just like, okay, like this is nice, this is comfortable. Nice accommodation, Airbnb.
Those mosquitoes tore us out for that first week or two, though.
Mm-hmm.
They tore us out, but then they left us alone.
Well, we figured out to keep the AC on.
Yeah, but I think we even acclimatized to the mosquitoes.
I think we did too, in the heat.
Like,
the heat and the AC. So it was like we said, March. It was March when we got there. So it was right after Carnival, right after going into like their fall. Mm-hmm. Like summer is in the winter for them. So, well. Summer,
down.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, their winters are summer. So if they're coming out of their winter, they're coming out of their summer.
But I think you laugh at me about this, but like I still felt like I needed to adjust when we got to Rio. Like the first 2 days, I'm like, all I hear about Rio is danger and pickpocketing and robberies and, you know, crime. So I'm just like, my head is like on a swivel. I'm like watching the kids. I'm making sure like I don't have cash on me like that. Yeah. I didn't even pull my cell phone out for like the first couple of days. And then like I realized, I'm like, we settled into it. And I'm like, there's literally like white people just walking their dogs around the neighborhood freely. Kids roaming around the streets. Like, it's not as dangerous as people made it out to be.
Yeah. I think there are a couple pieces to that, and honestly I feel like the notion of like safety and danger in different parts of the world and like what's objective and what's subjective and like what that looks like is a whole conversation to be had.
It could be a whole episode.
I do think it's a thing where it's like, one, when we travel, typically we're all out together, and I think we look very much just like normal, happy, like cishet, like family. And I feel like that like kind of like wholesome image protects us a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like I think even when you're by yourself versus when we're all together.
Yeah. Or when you're
different.
By yourself.
Yeah. When I'm by myself versus when we're all together, even like if we were like a gay couple or something, like it would feel different.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the other thing is because Rio is such a diverse population and because of the racial disparity that exists, we aren't the target. I feel like a lot of times it's like the white tourists or like the lighter skinned like tourists or people that are gonna be looked at more so as like targets or easy targets or like outsiders or like whatever it is. So I think that's like definitely part of it. But the other part of the thing is like we're not dumb people. Like we're not walking around with like gaudy jewelry, waving expensive equipment, like wandering into the favelas because we just like want to see what it's like. So there's a lot to it. But like I didn't have even a second where I felt unsafe.
Yeah.
And again, we were there for like almost 2 months.
Right. And so that was my first impression. I think what I loved most about Rio, because we could do a whole episode on Brazil, on Rio de Janeiro.
We should. I'm so in love with Rio.
We're going back. We have to go back. But what I loved most was the diversity. Mm-hmm. You know, you did not feel like an outsider as a Black person. Like they have the second highest population of African descendants
I think more enslaved people were shipped to Brazil during the transatlantic slave trade than were shipped to the Americas.
Yeah. So there's Black people everywhere. There's a lot of diversity, and the culture, like the music, the food.
Caribbean almost.
Feels Caribbean. It's a major city on a beach.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing I love.
With mountains.
With mountains. So there's so much to do. There's so much diversity in the landscape.
Yeah.
So we love beach towns, but it's never enough city.
Yeah, that's the thing with Playa.
Playa del Carmen, it was it's
even
too beachy.
Even Puerto Vallarta, we considered it
too much of a beach town. But this is big city plus beach, beautiful laid back vibe. So the food was great.
Yeah, the fresh produce was fantastic.
Yes, and it's affordable too. So it's just checked all the boxes.
And then it's so neighborhoody.
Yeah.
Which is the only other place I think we felt that is in Mexico City.
Yeah.
Is how the neighborhoods are so quaint and self-contained, but everything's still so connected. So it just feels really
good. It's extremely walkable city.
Yeah.
The subway
and the bike culture.
The bike culture.
The subway.
Look at us falling over Rio.
I know. We're simping for Rio. I do love Rio.
It's beautiful.
Let's book a flight.
I think we should live there.
Let's go. Let's go. Y'all heard it, right?
There's so many kids, too.
There were a lot of kids, a lot of families. Even a lot of the bikes and the bike rentals had the baby bikes or the kids' seats or whatever, on the back of them, attached already.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that. It was just a really great, beautiful place. And there's a lot to do.
There was so much to do. We only did half of the touristy excursions. We did Christ the Redeemer. We did the steps, the Scallion, whatever steps.
Yeah. That's the thing, though. The Portuguese, I was fighting for my life. I was fighting for my life every single day with the Portuguese. And I can read it a little bit. If you speak, and people keep saying, oh, Courtney speaks Spanish. The Portuguese shouldn't be that bad.
I don't know why people say that.
It is.
I don't know why people say that.
It is that bad for me. I think maybe if you're fluent, of course, it's different. But I've even heard people say that are completely fluent.
I'm willing to learn Portuguese to live in Brazil. Let's do it.
Okay. You can translate for us. It was a fit, active place.
Very healthy. Everyone was
a lot of outdoor gyms and
into the beach volleyball culture.
Yeah.
Kids enjoyed it. I think our kids enjoyed
it. They did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did. They were happy because they love the sand. They love the beach.
Yeah.
And I think too, they felt comfortable in the area.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing when we travel, typically we're in spaces that are it's one sort of race of people, even if the ethnicities are a little different, but we're in Mexico, and so of course everyone's Mexican, but the shades of brown are limited, you know what I mean? People are going to be a little darker, a little lighter depending on where you are. And the same thing, we go to Europe and you have some Black people, Asian people, other ethnicities sprinkled throughout. But I think with being in Rio, every single day at every single juncture, you're seeing a full range at least of brownness from very white people to very dark people, and I think that's something that's nice for them to see too.
It felt like I was in New York City. It felt like a true melting pot of not culture but of ethnicity.
Did you see any Asian people in Rio?
No.
Yeah, I think about things like that a lot too, because I'm it felt like a very white black.
I think it was all the shades from white to black.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna see Indian, Middle Eastern, Asian,
which is interesting because I do
But Sao Paulo is supposed to have a huge population of
Asian people.
I don't know if it's Japanese or Korean. Yeah. Like those.
Because that's something that's interesting too. I felt there were a lot of Asian presenting people in Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
And that was I guess a little unexpected, or even you go to Puerto Vallarta, and a lot of the people over there look a little more Asian. So I don't know, but I'm always paying attention to those things because it's so interesting how people present and change in the different pockets.
Other thing I liked about Rio is it is still touristy enough. So it's not a overly touristy place, but every now and then those guys that were there on their bachelor trip from DC.
Yeah. I hope they're doing well.
Me too.
If you're seeing this, if you
shout out to y'all.
Seeing this, shout out to y'all. Hit us up. Hello. I hope the wedding went well. I'd love to see pictures.
And it's great to just be okay, it's a city that people want to come visit. Yeah. I think that's part of what I didn't love about Guadalajara is like no one's coming to visit us in Guadalajara, Mexico.
I mean, they would.
Adrian did,
Like,
and I'm like, and I felt bad. I was like,
yeah, it's not a tourist.
It's not a touristy place. Like you run out of things to kind of do. Like, and so Rio is like it's that guy. Like Rio is that it's guy. International, right?
She's
so
got it all.
People are gonna come and visit.
She's a legend.
Yeah,
she's the moment.
So like, not that we just want to stick with like tourists and Americans, but it's nice to see like people
come. Some motion.
Yeah, to come visit and be like, yeah, we're here on vacation. Like, tell me about it. Let me show you around.
Yeah, because even not random, but even people that are like acquaintances and not even actual friends. Like if you're living somewhere like that and you see someone like on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, like post that they're there, it's like, let's catch up. You're in my city. Like there's just more fluid, action there, which I think is nice. Okay. So we did Rio. That didn't work. Why didn't we just stay in Rio, babe?
A couple of reasons. Mm-hmm. To be like candid, I mean, I think the Portuguese and finding an accommodation intimidated us. Yeah. Finding accommodations in Rio de Janeiro, I don't know why it's so difficult. I don't know why.
A lot of them are older.
They're not renovated.
There wasn't enough space.
But like you are paying kind of a high price tag if you want to live in like the cool, nice, safe areas. Ipanema, let's say Ipanema was like our favorite neighborhood, right? Yeah. And to find an apartment that would have fit our needs, it's like $2,500 a month, $2,000 to $2,500 a month, and
which isn't bad.
It's gonna be kind of smaller and older. Like it's hard to find accommodation.
I think also we overpacked. That's another thing about like scouting that I feel like this year we've had to like really work on in each like iteration, each trip is not overpacking. Yeah. Overpacking, the thought of it makes me sick at this point.
It's I'm sorry to say this, but it's you.
It's not me. I'm not the problem. I'm not the drunk. There are literally 4 of us. There are 4 of us. We've gotten better. Look, it's the hair products.
They have it when you get there.
Not always.
Put some water in it.
Okay. Let me just put some water in my hair. But so we had to leave Rio, which was sad. I didn't want to go. I was like kicking and screaming a little bit. But yeah, we had to get back to the US. And we had some solo trips planned.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah, so there's like Whitley's birthday was in April, and then you had a trip in May, and then I had a trip in June. We kind of blocked it together knowing we need to be back in the US so that we'd have like help with the kids. Because this whole time also there's like work and job, like 9 to 5 stuff to happen.
That is one nice thing that has come out of this year is like we've started to solo travel. Yeah. Like since the kids have been born, our daughter is 18 months now.
Yeah. And we're not having any more.
Zay's 4. And we're just like, okay, we've been traveling as a family. It's great. Mm-hmm. But if you and I can't get away for a vacation, the next best thing is a solo trip.
It is. And we did have a little mini vacation too.
We did. Yeah, we got to put that in there too.
We had like all 3. We just like lined it up.
Yeah. And so like you being able to just get out and we've never solo traveled. Like and we can make a whole episode about solo traveling and the importance of it. Yeah. Because even when you're married in a relationship, I think solo traveling allows you to find yourself a little bit.
Yeah, it does. You get to explore all those different pieces. It's like I felt a weight shed off. Yeah, well, we'll save it. We'll save it for a whole episode. But so we had a couple solo trips, and then we had a little vacation in June for our friend's baby shower. Mm-hmm. And then come July, was it July? We left again? Mm-hmm. God, what month is it now? Yeah. Yeah, we left again. And I think that was nuts because we thought we were going to be in Playa del Carmen through the end of the year. Like we were tired after like all the scouting at the beginning of the year. We like recouped over the summer a little bit and we were like, let's go sit down somewhere through the end of the year. We thought it was going to be Playa. It was too hot. There was nothing to do. It just got old really quickly. I think that's kind of like the TLDR with like being between like Playa and Tulum, but we always love the Riviera Maya. Like we'll always come back there, but I think as far as being able to live in PDC like for long term,
it's been a lot of we changed directions a lot and we've pivoted. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just how the years played out. But we spent time in Playa del Carmen in the Riviera Maya. Thought maybe this could be somewhere we'd stay long term, and it was just not it.
Yeah, it was hot too. We got there during a heat wave. I was ready to leave like the 3rd day.
And then we went to Europe.
Yeah, we did one. Yeah. We came back here for a week for Invest Fest. Shout out Earn Your Leisure. And then we popped over to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're back from Europe. And so what were our takeaways from the European scouting?
Europe was dope because we actually got to see what it would be like to live in a completely different time zone. So we've always been traveling through Latin America, South America, which the time zone's relatively the same for our working hours and for just keeping in touch with family, friends, stuff like that. But you go over to Europe and you spend an extended amount of time there, 6 hours ahead.
Yeah,
you were working East Coast hours.
Yeah.
6 hours ahead. So you started your work day around 4 p.m.
Yeah. Which was nice.
And
it's like having 2 whole days.
Yeah, it changed a lot of perspective for us because there are so many parts of the world, like Asia, that's kind of been blocked off because we work 9 to 5. And everyone's having a good time in Bali and Vietnam and Thailand. And it's like
Shanghai and Indonesia.
And we're just like, yeah, must be nice. Because we are
I'm hating from outside of the club.
We're kind of location dependent. And so Europe was kind of like our first taste of breaking away from that location dependence.
Yeah, because each time we've gone over there, we've just taken PTO.
Yeah, exactly.
The longest we've been over there was like 2 weeks at the end of last year. And we just like weren't working.
So
took the time off.
Yeah, so for me that was a huge takeaway. And then also Europe was everything I thought it would be. I think I had always been a proponent of like, while the kids are young, we just need to like live in Europe. Yeah. It seems like an easier way to live.
It's easy to get around. The cities are going to be set up in a way we're more familiar with. I think it's nuts because we spent the bulk of our time in Europe in Madrid, where I've been twice. We went once. We were there with the kids already. And like, we were convinced that Madrid was like a flyover city. Like it just wasn't for us. We just stayed in the wrong area. And I want to call out, that's why it's so important. Like you can go somewhere, not like it and not be your vibe. That's cool. Be open to going back. Because like it went from, I never need to go to Madrid again. I don't like Madrid. Madrid's not for me. And it transitioned to like, I live here now. I'm literally Spanish. This is like my home.
Never leaving.
And I know, I'm like, no, they're going to have to drag me out of this country. But it's just amazing how it happened. I think it was like the weather, the time of year, and the neighborhood that we were in that like made that difference.
I'm just happy to hear you say that you will go back to a destination because you've been on this like passport. I just need to get my stamps and go to new countries every single time.
But like once you've been somewhere, you can always go back.
Yeah.
But like, why would I choose to go somewhere I've always been when I could explore somewhere I haven't been? That's the thing.
I get that, but once I know I like something, I'm going back.
Right, but then you're missing the opportunity to try something different, to experience something new. Sir.
Yeah.
You flirting with me?
You picking it up?
Okay, let's move on. Save that for Patreon content.
Are we as funny as we think?
I think so. God. Let us know if we're funny or not.
Yeah.
But if you don't think we're funny, just don't say anything.
Just don't comment.
Yeah.
But subscribe.
And like and share. You can like roast us in the group chat. Right. So Madrid is lovely and amazing. But I think with deciding we're going to be in Europe just because things are a little stricter and more like buttoned up with being able to be there long term, it's a thing where it's like we have to prepare to really kind of like make that move. Like with being in Mexico, even for like 6, 8, 9 months, whatever it is, like you can be there for 6 months on a tourist visa and it's like not a big deal.
Right.
We got a lease. We only have like a tourist visa. But if we're going to be in Madrid looking at like the remote work visas or stuff like that, there's like paperwork. But that was neat.
It was.
Yeah.
And we actually got to pop over to Barcelona.
We did.
While
we
were
took our
Spain.
Baby moon. We hadn't been there since I was pregnant with Xavier.
And it's crazy it's crazy repeating things because I didn't love Barcelona. We were only there for a weekend.
Yeah.
This time around, wasn't super impressed with it, but housing was way cheaper in Barcelona than it was in Madrid.
And we got to see so much more of the city than we saw because we were there the first time just as like tourists.
Yeah.
So we stayed around like the Gothic quarter and we did like some touristy things. But this time we saw like we went more like inland and a little more, I think, like south. And saw more of like the actual city. And it's neat. Like I would go back and explore that.
I would too.
If we were like over there.
For the cost aspect of it, and Barcelona's a cool city. It's coastal, so like I would definitely check it out again.
Yeah.
And then we took a 1 week trip after that to Lisbon, and then back to the States. So,
and you were so convinced that Lisbon was it, like before.
I'm still not writing it off.
I'm not writing Lisbon off, but I think the thing about Lisbon, for me personally, I think Lisbon's lovely. I think it's a great city. I do. And I definitely get the appeal of it, especially from like a cost perspective. I think though some areas of Lisbon just need a little bit more like TLC. And it seemed like a lot of the areas weren't as populated or as busy. Like it just felt like we compared it to like Merida, like a little bit.
It's going through a transformation.
Yeah,
and I think
transitioning.
It's definitely an old city that they have not, I don't think, kept up as well as like when you go to Madrid.
Yeah.
I think that the flies, what the hell?
That was the time of year.
The flies are killing me. There are flies everywhere, and apparently it's a problem when it gets hot because of, for whatever reason. And so, yeah, flies are a problem. And then it was kind of quiet.
And it's hilly.
But
everybody was like tourist season is over.
So tourist season, I did not know that. That shocked me.
Yeah,
like, I thought people
like
were living.
Major city,
I thought people were living there. Like y'all are going through this housing crisis. Apparently, it's hard to find apartments and rentals.
Yeah.
But you get there and it's like a ghost town for half the year. So like, honestly, want to do some more research on that because are people just buying up these houses?
Because that would
and holding them and not
that would be unethical.
Are they just renovating them like for long periods of time? So like
I don't know. It's interesting though because it was very different. Like the first time we were there, I remember I liked it. I was super pregnant. I was like 33 weeks pregnant, like gallivanting through Lisbon.
You weren't supposed to be there.
I was not. I wasn't supposed to be flying internationally. Hopefully there's like no statute of limitations on that. I don't want to be on a no-fly list. I don't want to be on a no-fly list. But I had like an allergic reaction and then like our luggage got lost and then like it was rainy and I was super pregnant. So I didn't like love it the first time. And then this time I was just like, it's nice. It's cool. Like the African Lisbon tour was like amazing. That was definitely the highlight of it all. But as far as like scouting trip situation goes, I'm like, I don't need to like live in Lisbon. I want to check out other areas of Portugal though.
Me too. I think it's lower down the list. We didn't get to do the Algarve. We didn't get to see Porto. Any other cities really, Sintra. So like we will go back to Portugal.
How did we not do the Hippo tour again?
I'm not even super jazzed.
That's all I wanted to do the first time, and we didn't get to.
Like I even asked the Uber driver, and he's like, "Why would you want to do the Hippo?"
I just think it's neat because the bus turns into a boat.
We live in 2023.
I think it's neat. The bus turns into a boat. The boat turns into a bus. It's cool.
Anyway, that's the year we've had. That's what we've been up to. That's why the bags are under our eyes. We look tired. We look frazzled. I mean, you look good.
We've been on road.
Yeah, we've been moving.
We really have.
We have a lot of plans coming up. We're not going to share what those are just yet, but like we are planning to settle down a little bit more.
Yeah, we need to take it off road.
Yeah.
But okay, so for this next bit, this is our first episode. So we want to take a few minutes to run through some FAQs, some frequently asked questions that we get all of the time.
Yeah, I'll pull them up here.
And the first one would be around like money and finance, right? How do we afford to just pack up and like travel the world? Unfortunately, we are not trust fund babies. That would be nice. We did not hit the lotto. We did not hit the lottery. There's no inheritance. We sold our house, right, which provided a bit of cushion, and then we just took our jobs with us. So we're still 9 to 5 employees as we move about and as we travel. You
said sold, and I thought you were going to say we've been selling crack or something like that.
Oh my God.
I don't know. But yeah,
there's no Pyrex in this story.
We do work 9 to 5s. You've taken time off from maternity leave. I've taken time off, but one of us has always been working for a U.S. company.
Yeah.
So that's how we afford to travel full time. We have a lot of resources on our Instagram and our website, right, about finding remote work. And then we can always point people in the right direction for more remote work. Like job boards and stuff like that.
That's one of the things we have like some guests teed up that are on the pursuit of FIRE, financial independence, retire early. We have some like passive income resources coming up. People have cleared $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in debt. People have teaching English, business owners abroad, all that sort of stuff. So even if you're not just going to like sell your house and like bring your tech job with you, there's definitely a way to travel more, to move abroad, or whatever you want to do.
The next question is, what do you all do for childcare? For reference, our kids are, again, 4 and 18 months. Mm-hmm. So we've done a few different things, right?
Yeah. So we have had nannies. We've had nannies come into where we're staying and like watch and hang out with the kids. We've also had times where like we just kind of like swap and flex our schedules to be able to hang out with them ourselves. And then Xavier has gone to school.
Yeah, in Mexico. So yeah, we've enrolled the kids. We enrolled our son in school. That was a easy, pretty simple process. Mm-hmm. He adjusted well, and he went to school with like other kids like in our expat group, our Facebook group. So it was really dope. He was going to school with other kids that he was like friends with outside of school, essentially.
Which is a great thing about Guadalajara.
Yeah, the community in Guadalajara. Shout out to the community in GDL because we miss y'all.
Thank you, Joy, y'all. Hi.
We miss y'all.
We do.
The next question is, how do the kids adjust to traveling full time?
Right. There are some people in our comment section that have very strong opinions on all the traveling and moving around that we do with the kids. I appreciate your concern. I would say this is all that Whitley's known. We left the U.S. when she was 10 weeks, and this is all she's known, and she is thriving. She's sassy and securely attached, and
hitting all her milestones.
So she's doing well. Xavier is doing well too. I mean, he's so smart and confident and funny.
Yeah,
and he just talks to people. He'll tell you he speaks multiple languages. He makes friends at the park and the playground now, regardless of what language they speak. So I think as parents, we definitely keep an eye on that, and it's something we're cognizant of.
Yeah, we always told each other hey, if our kids are just like not adjusting well at all, this is like harming them, we would stop.
Yeah, we'll pull the plug.
Because that's the most important thing to our life. We don't want to just be content creators. We want to honestly have the freedom to spend more time as a family. So
I think too, it's interesting because Xavier has developed like a different concept of like home, which I think that's interesting, but I also think he's rooted in the fact that like home is like wherever we are together. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really beautiful concept. So yeah, I mean, all in all, they're thriving and they're doing well. Also, I think just because as they get older and they change, that may change too. Yeah. So like Justin said, like we're putting our kids first. Like if we need to like really just settle down wherever in the world that looks like, or, stop traveling, take a break, do whatever we need to do to make sure they're good. Like they're the priority.
Right. Conclusion.
In conclusion. Okay. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. I think this has been a great first episode for sure.
If you made it all the way through, and you want your questions to be answered on the next episode, shoot us an email. We're going to put that in the description below. And also you can reach out to our DM on Instagram. Yeah.
I try to get to all of them. I really do. Mm-hmm. Y'all
interact with us. Yeah, let's have this be a two-way conversation, and then look out for the next episode.
Yes. Thanks for hanging out, y'all.